In this lesson, you will assign a dynamic constraint to a system of geometric constraints and see how it drives the system. You will then convert it into a reference constraint and observe the fundamental difference. You will finally convert it into an annotational constraint so that it will appear on the drawing when plotted. Open the Gothic Arch 2 project file. By default, all the geometric constraints are hidden. Click Show All to reveal them. Let's apply a dimensional constraint. In this particular geometry, a radius or a diameter constraint would make the most sense. Click Radius, select the left circle, and click another point to specify the dimension line location. Now right now it's presenting us with a suggested variable name called rad1, and it's setting this variable name equal to a specific radius value, which is the current value of this circle. Press Enter to accept that. Now this dimensional constraint can actually drive this whole system. To see this, first select the circle on the right and try to move it. Nothing happens. And that's because the dimensional constraint is keeping the left circle fixed at that specific size. Press Escape twice to deselect. You can use the dimensional constraint to resize the whole system. Double-click and then highlight this right half of the equation and type in a new value. I'll type in 2 and press Enter. So that changed the size of this circle, but it also changed the size of the other one because of the geometric constraints that are in place. You can use the variable names in formulas within other dimensional constraints. To see this, let's draw another circle. Type C, Enter. Use the 2-point option. Snap one of the points to the center of the large circle. Hold down Shift, right-click, and choose Quadrant, and select the top quadrant of the circle. Click Auto Constrain in the Geometric panel, and select these two circles, and press Enter. We got a coincident constraint down here and a tangent constraint up here. Now let's create another radius dimensional constraint on the smaller circle. This time it says rad2 equals 1. Let's change this right-hand side of the equation to say rad2 equals rad1 divided by 2. Enter. Here we have a warning. Applying a dimensional constraint would over-constrain the geometry. Okay, let's cancel. The problem is we have too many geometric constraints on this circle. Let's get rid of this tangent constraint. Right-click and choose Delete. Now let's try it again. Radius in the dimensional panel. Select the smaller circle and click a point. Change the equation to read radius 2 equals radius 1 divided by 2. Enter. That time it worked. You have to be very careful with constraints that you don't over-constrain. So the best advice I have is to apply geometric constraints one at a time. Now let's see how this works. Let's change the rad1 value to 3. This circle got bigger to maintain its relationship according to the formula. Its size is half the radius of the larger circle. Now this smaller circle isn't really part of the ogive designer that I'm trying to make here, so I'm going to go ahead and erase it now that you understand how constraints can work together in formulas. I'll just erase the circle, and the dimensional and geometric constraints that were bound to it are also deleted. Now let's select this dimensional constraint, right-click, and choose Properties. It says right here that reference is no. If we change this to a reference constraint by choosing Yes, look at what happens. I'll press Escape. The constraint now has parentheses around it. This means that it's really now just for information only. It no longer will drive the system. If you double-click on it, it won't let you edit the value. That's the main difference. I can now change the size of the ogive by moving this circle's center grip. And the radius constraint is now driven by the system rather than the other way around. The reference constraint, however, will not plot. So if you want to see this on the drawing when you plot it out, you need to change it into an annotational constraint. Select it and choose Constraint Form Annotational. I can move this over outside the circle. It updates with a thicker font because it assumes some of the qualities of the current dimension style. But it's driven by the system. So I can still select this circle, move its center, and this will automatically update. Go ahead and save your work as Gothic Arch 3. So in this lesson, you learned how to assign a dimensional constraint, and now understand the difference between dynamic, reference, and annotational dimensional constraints.